The letter arrived 3 days after they buried his wife, and it changed everything Ming-wei thought he knew about the woman he had loved for 17 years. The silk paper trembled in his hands as he read words that spoke of another man, another life, and a betrayal so profound that it reached from beyond death to destroy him. But inside the letter's folds lay something even more dangerous, the truth that would force him to choose between the comfort of his grief and the terrible weight of understanding. Ming-wei had found the letter by accident, tucked inside the jade comb case that his wife Mei-lin always kept beside her mirror. He had been gathering her belongings, moving through their bedchamber like a ghost himself, when the case fell and spilled open. The comb itself was unremarkable, carved from pale green jade with a simple lotus pattern. Mei-lin had worn it every day of their marriage, pulling her long black hair into the elegant style she favored. He had given it to her on their wedding night, presenting it as the first gift from husband to wife, or so he had believed. The letter was written in a man's hand, bold and confident strokes that spoke of education and status. It was dated 20 years ago, 2 years before Ming-wei and Mei-lin had married. He read it standing by the window as the autumn light faded, and with each character, the foundation of his life crumbled like dried clay. "My beloved Mei-lin," it began, "I write this knowing I may never see you again. Your father has made his decision, and I am powerless against the weight of his ambition. You are to marry Ming-wei, the merchant's son, the man whose family's gold can save your father from ruin. I understand duty. I understand sacrifice. But I cannot pretend to understand how the stars could be so cruel as to tear you from my arms and give you to another. This jade comb is all I can offer you now. Wear it and know that part of me goes with you into that marriage. When you touch it, remember the grove of plum trees where we first kissed. Remember the promises we made. Remember that you are the only woman I will ever love. Your Wei-chen. Wei-chen." The name struck Ming-wei like a physical blow. He knew that name. Everyone in their province knew that name. General Wei-chen, the military hero who had defended the northern borders for 25 years, who had risen from nothing to become one of the emperor's most trusted commanders. Wei-chen, who had never married, whose dedication to duty was legendary, whose austere life was held up as a model of selfless service. Ming-wei sank onto the carved wooden stool beside Mei-lin's dressing table. The room still smelled of her, jasmine and sandalwood, the scent she dabbed behind her ears each morning. Her hairpins lay scattered across the lacquered surface. Her powder boxes stood in neat rows. Her silk robes hung on their stand, like the shell of a person who had simply walked away and never returned. But she had not walked away. She had died in his arms 3 nights ago, fever burning through her body like wildfire. She had looked at him in those final moments, her eyes dark and distant, and whispered something he had not quite caught. He had leaned closer, desperate to hear, but she had already gone, her last breath escaping like a secret she would take forever. Had she been thinking of Wei-chen? In 17 years of marriage, she had never spoken that name. She had been a dutiful wife, gentle and graceful, managing their household with quiet efficiency. She had given him 2 sons and a daughter, all grown now with families of their own. She had sat beside him at meals, accompanied him to festivals, received his relatives with appropriate hospitality, and every day, every single day, she had worn the jade comb that another man had given her. The betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Ming-wei had loved her. He had chosen her himself, though his father had arranged the match. From the first meeting, when she had served him tea with trembling hands, her eyes downcast in maidenly modesty, he had felt his heart stir. She had seemed so fragile, so in need of protection. He had vowed to be a good husband to her, to honor her, to build a life worthy of her grace. And all those years, she had carried another man's love against her skin. Ming-wei stood abruptly, knocking over the stool. Rage flooded through him, hot and bitter. He wanted to throw the comb against the wall, to shatter it into 1,000 pieces. He wanted to burn the letter, to tear apart every memory, to go to Wei-chen and demand answers. His hands shook as he clutched the silk paper, reading it again, searching for some other meaning, some different truth. But the words remained the same. He spent that night sleepless, pacing the garden paths while the moon traced its arc overhead. The chrysanthemums Mei-lin had planted were blooming, their heavy heads nodding in the autumn breeze. She had loved this garden, spending hours among the flowers and ornamental rocks, the small pond where golden carp swam in lazy circles. How many times had he found her here, that jade comb gleaming in her hair, her face serene as she contemplated the carefully arranged beauty around her. What had she been thinking in those moments? Had she been remembering another garden, another time? Had every smile she gave him been shadowed by the ghost of Wei-chen? By morning, Ming-wei had made his decision. He would go to Wei-chen. He would confront the man who had stolen his wife's heart, who had condemned him to 17 years of loving a woman who could never fully love him back. He would have his answers, and then he would have his revenge. The journey to the northern garrison took 12 days. Ming-wei traveled in a plain cart, dressed in simple robes, carrying only necessities and the jade comb, which he could not bring himself to leave behind. The autumn rains came early that year, turning the roads to mud and the sky to iron. He spent his nights in wayside inns, lying awake and listening to the drums of rain, the letters' words circling endlessly in his mind. The fortress where Wei-chen commanded stood against the mountains like a gray stone fist. It had weathered 40 years of border wars, its walls scarred by siege weapons and winter storms. Guards challenged Ming-wei at the outer gate, their spears crossed, their faces hard with suspicion. He gave his name and requested an audience with the general, stating only that he came on a personal matter of great importance. To his surprise, Wei-chen agreed to see him. The general's quarters were sparse, a soldier's room, not a commander's palace. A simple bed, a writing desk, shelves of military treatises and maps. Wei-chen himself stood by the window, his back to Ming-wei, hands clasped behind him. He wore the plain uniform of a working officer, no decorations or ceremony. When he turned, Ming-wei saw a man in his late 40s, lean and weather-worn, his face marked by years of sun and wind. His eyes were dark and penetrating, the eyes of someone accustomed to reading terrain and tactics, to seeing beyond the immediate moment. "You are Ming-wei," Wei-chen said. It was not a question. "You know me?" "I have known of you for 20 years, since the day you married Mei-lin." Wei-chen moved to a cabinet and poured 2 cups of wine. "Please sit. You have traveled far." Ming-wei remained standing. "I found your letter, the one you sent with the jade comb." Something flickered across Wei-chen's face, pain quickly mastered. "I see, then you know. I know that you loved my wife, that you gave her a token she carried every day of our marriage, that I have been living a lie." Wei-chen's hand tightened on his cup, but his voice remained steady. "You were not living a lie, you were living a marriage, as was she." "Do not speak to me of marriage," Ming-wei said, the rage he had been carrying for days finally breaking free. "You poisoned it before it even began. Every moment I spent with her, you were there between us. Every smile, every touch, tainted by your memory. She was never truly mine." "She was entirely yours," Wei-chen said quietly. "That was the tragedy." The words made no sense. Ming-wei pulled the jade comb from his robe and held it up, his hand trembling. "Then why this? Why did you send her a daily reminder of what she had lost? Why condemn her to a lifetime of mourning for something she could never have?" Wei-chen set down his cup with deliberate care. "I sent her the comb because I was young and foolish, and believed that love conquered all. I thought I was giving her comfort. Instead, I gave her a burden. It took me many years to understand that." He paused, his eyes distant. Did she keep it all those years?" "She wore it every day," Ming-wei said bitterly, "right up until the moment she died." The pain on Wei-chen's face was naked now, unhidden. He turned back to the window, his shoulders rigid. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Rain began to fall, pattering against the tiles, running in rivulets down the paper screens. "I need you to understand something," Wei-chen said finally. "Mei-lin and I grew up together. Our families' estates bordered each other. We played together as children, studied together as we grew older. Loving her was as natural as breathing, and I truly believed we would marry. I was arrogant enough to think that love mattered more than gold. that her father would choose his daughter's happiness over his own financial survival. He gave a short, bitter laugh. I was wrong. Her father's debts were enormous. Your family offered to clear them in exchange for Mei-lin's hand. It was a business transaction, pure and simple, and I had nothing to offer but my sword and my prospects. A young officer with more ambition than sense. So you sent her to me carrying your love, like a disease? Ming-wei said. Wei-chen turned, his eyes blazing. I sent her to you thinking it would comfort her. I sent her to you believing she would eventually forget me and find happiness. I sent her to you because I had no choice, and neither did she, and we were both trying to survive the only way we knew how. His voice dropped. I never contacted her again, not in 20 years. I honored her marriage, even if I could not honor my own life with anyone else. How noble, Ming-wei said, the sarcasm sharp as broken glass. You loved her from afar while I lived with her ghost. You lived with a woman who tried every day to be a good wife to you, Wei-chen said. Do you think she wore that comb to torment you? She wore it because she was trying to integrate all of herself, the girl who loved me, the woman who married you, into one whole person. She was trying to honor both her past and her present. He took a step closer. Did she treat you poorly? Did she shame you? Did she fail in any duty? Ming-wei wanted to say yes, wanted to catalog all the ways she had wronged him, but the words would not come, because Mei-lin had been everything a wife should be. Patient, kind, devoted. She had nursed him through illness, counseled him in business matters, raised their children with wisdom and care. She had laughed at his jokes, listened to his worries, shared his bed with warmth, if not passion. In 17 years, she had never given him cause for complaint. Except for the comb. Except for the secret. She should have told me, Ming-wei said, but his voice had lost its edge. Perhaps, Wei-chen agreed. But what would you have done with that knowledge? Would it have made you happier? Would it have made her life easier? Sometimes silence is not betrayal, but mercy. Ming-wei sank onto a stool, suddenly exhausted. The anger that had sustained him through 12 days of travel was draining away, leaving only a vast, aching confusion. I do not know what to think anymore. I do not know what was real. Wei-chen poured fresh wine and handed Ming-wei a cup. May I tell you something I learned too late? Love is not a single thing. Mei-lin loved me. I do not doubt that. But over 17 years with you, do you truly believe she felt nothing? No affection, no tenderness, no genuine care? Ming-wei thought of Mei-lin's hand in his during their daughter's difficult birth, her grip fierce and trusting. He thought of the way she would adjust his collar before he left for important meetings, her touch quick and efficient but somehow intimate. He thought of the small garden shrine she had made, where she prayed each morning for his health and prosperity. I do not know, he said honestly. Then let me share something else, Wei-chen said. He went to his desk and retrieved a small wooden box. Inside lay a collection of letters, the paper yellowed with age. These are letters I wrote to Mei-lin over the years. I never sent them, but I wrote them, one each year, on the anniversary of the day her father announced her betrothal to you. I wrote them to exercise the grief, to let it go a little more with each passing year. He selected one from near the middle of the stack and handed it to Ming-wei. Read this one. It is from 10 years ago. Ming-wei unfolded the paper carefully. The handwriting was the same bold script as the letter he had found, but the tone was different, more measured, more resigned. My beloved Mei-lin, it read. 10 years have passed since you became another man's wife, and I write this final letter to release you from the promises we made as foolish children. I have spent this decade in service to the emperor, seeking glory enough to fill the emptiness you left behind. But I have learned that glory is a poor substitute for happiness, and that true strength lies not in denying love, but in accepting its many forms. I hope you have found contentment with Ming-wei. I hope you have children who delight you, a home that shelters you, a life that has grown rich and full. I hope the jade comb I gave you has become just another ornament, stripped of its pain. I hope you have forgotten me, my love. That is the last gift I can give you. I will write no more letters after this. It is time for both of us to be free. Ming-wei read the letter twice, his vision blurring. You wrote this 10 years ago. And I have written nothing since, Wei-chen confirmed. I let her go. I finally understood that holding on to that love was hurting us both. Even if she never knew about these letters, I needed to release it, to make space for the life I actually had instead of the life I wanted. But she never let you go, Ming-wei said, touching the jade comb. She kept wearing this. Wei-chen was quiet for a moment. Perhaps the comb meant something different to her than you think. Perhaps it was not about clinging to the past, but about honoring all the parts of herself. The girl she was, the woman she became. Sometimes we need tokens to remind us of our own completeness. Ming-wei stood and walked to the window. Outside, the rain had stopped, and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. He thought about Mei-lin's last moments, the way she had looked at him with those dark, distant eyes. What had she been trying to say? What final secret had she carried into death? Why did you agree to see me? He asked Wei-chen. You could have refused. You could have had your guards turn me away. Because you deserved answers, Wei-chen said simply. And because I owed Mei-lin at least that much, to help her husband understand, to keep him from poisoning his memories of her with unnecessary bitterness. You still love her. I will always love her, but I love the memory, not the woman she became. I love the girl in the plum grove, not the wife who built a life with you. Those are two different people, and only one of them was ever mine. Ming-wei turned to face the general. I came here for revenge. I wanted to hurt you the way I was hurting. I wanted to destroy you for stealing something from me. I know, Wei-chen said, and if it would give you peace, I would accept that punishment. I have survived wars and battles and 20 years of loneliness. Whatever you choose to do, I will not resist. But looking at Wei-chen, this austere, lonely man who had spent 2 decades in service and solitude, who had loved and lost and somehow found a way to continue, Ming-wei felt his desire for revenge crumble. They were not enemies. They were 2 men who had loved the same woman in different ways, at different times. 2 men who had both lost her. She died of fever, Ming-wei said quietly. It came on suddenly. 3 days of burning heat, and then she was gone. At the end, she tried to say something, but I could not hear it. I have been torturing myself, wondering what her last words were. Wei-chen's face was stricken. I am sorry, truly sorry. Our daughter looks like her, Ming-wei continued. The same delicate features, the same graceful movements. When she laughs, I hear Mei-lin. When she tends her own garden, I see Mei-lin among the flowers. I thought those memories would comfort me. Instead, they have been torture, tainted by the knowledge that I never fully had her. But you did have her, Wei-chen said urgently. You had 17 years. You had children together. You had a life. I had 1 summer of stolen meetings and a lifetime of absence. You are the one she chose to spend her days with. You are the one who held her when she died. You are the one whose name her children carry. Do you not see? You won, Ming-wei. You got everything I wanted and could never have. The words hit Ming-wei with unexpected force. He had been so focused on what he thought he had lost that he had forgotten what he had gained. 17 years of shared meals and shared worries, watching their children grow, the small intimacies of daily life, the way Mei-lin always poured his tea a certain temperature, the way she would touch his shoulder when she passed behind his chair, the way she had kept his favorite foods in the kitchen even when he claimed he did not want them. Those moments had been real. Whatever she had felt for Wei-chen, she had built an entire life with Ming-wei. She had chosen, day after day, year after year, to be his wife indeed, if not in the totality of her heart. I do not know how to reconcile it, Ming-wei said, his voice breaking. The wife I knew and the woman who loved you. They are the same person, Wei-chen said gently. People contain multitudes. Mei-lin loved me once, and some part of her probably always did. But she also loved you in a different way, built over time and shared experience. Both things can be true. Ming-wei held up the jade comb, letting it catch the light. The pale green stone glowed softly, the lotus carving simple and elegant. What should I do with this? That is not for me to say. It belongs to you now, along with everything else she left behind. They stood in silence for a while, these 2 men bound together by love and loss. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the mountains gold and crimson. The fortress walls threw long shadows across the courtyard below, where soldiers moved through their evening routines with practiced efficiency. Finally, Ming-wei spoke. "I want to tell you about her, about the woman she became. Would you like to hear?" Wei-chen's eyes grew bright with unshed tears. More than anything, so Ming-wei told him. He told Wei-chen about Mei-lin's laugh, which she gave sparingly but with genuine delight. He told him about her fierce protection of their children, the way she had faced down a magistrate who tried to cheat their eldest son. He told him about her gardens, her calligraphy, her love of rain and mooncakes, and stories about the immortals. He told him about her kindness to servants, her quiet charity to beggars, her patience with his elderly mother. He told Wei-chen about the time Mei-lin had gotten drunk at a festival and laughed so hard she fell over. About the time she had nursed an injured bird back to health. About the way she would hum while she embroidered, wordless melodies that filled the house with gentle sound. About her fear of thunder and her love of snow. About the scar on her hand from a cooking accident, and the way she always smelled of jasmine. And as he spoke, Ming-wei realized he was not giving these stories to Wei-chen as an act of revenge or cruelty. He was sharing them because they were precious, and because Wei-chen was perhaps the only other person in the world who would understand just how precious they were. He was sharing them because Mei-lin deserved to be remembered as a complete person, not as a ghost or a betrayer or an idealized memory, but as the complicated, flawed, loving woman she had actually been. Wei-chen listened without interruption, his face working through a dozen emotions: grief, joy, longing, peace. When Ming-wei finally fell silent, the room had grown dark, and a servant had quietly entered to light the lamps. "Thank you," Wei-chen said hoarsely. "Thank you for giving her back to me, even in this way." "I think I needed to give her back to myself as well," Ming-wei said. He turned the jade comb over in his hands one last time, then held it out to Wei-chen. "This should be yours," but Wei-chen shook his head. "No, she wore it for 17 years as your wife. It belongs to your shared life now, not to what came before. Keep it. Give it to your daughter, perhaps. Let it be transformed into something new." Ming-wei lowered his hand, closing his fingers around the comb. "I think I understand now why she kept it. It was not about clinging to you or rejecting me. It was about accepting all of herself. The girl who loved you taught her how to be the woman who loved me. They were not separate." "Yes," Wei-chen said softly. "Yes, exactly." Ming-wei stayed at the fortress for 3 more days. He and Wei-chen talked for hours each evening, sharing memories and stories, slowly transforming jealousy and anger into something closer to fellowship. They would never be friends, not truly. The gulf of what had passed was too deep, but they became something else, witnesses to each other's love, guardians of Mei-lin's memory. On the last evening, Wei-chen gave Ming-wei the box of unsent letters. "Burn these if you wish, or keep them, but I think I am finally ready to let them go." Ming-wei accepted the box with reverence. "I will keep them. Our children should know, someday, how deeply their mother was loved, by both of us." The journey home took 14 days, longer because Ming-wei stopped frequently to rest and think. He read through Wei-chen's letters one by one, watching the progression from raw grief to acceptance to release. He thought about Mei-lin, about the secret life of emotion she had carried alongside her duties as wife and mother. He thought about his own anger and the way it had blinded him to the truth. When he finally arrived home, the house felt different. It was still full of Mei-lin's presence. Her arrangements of flowers, her careful organization, her aesthetic choices in every room. But now Ming-wei could see it all with new eyes. This was not the sad compromise of a woman resigned to an unhappy fate. This was a life built with intention and care. Mei-lin had made a home here. She had made a family. She had made a choice every day to be present in the life she had, rather than lost in the life she had imagined. His children came to visit, concerned about his long absence. His eldest son, Wei-ming, asked about his journey north, and Ming-wei told him he had gone to speak with General Wei-chen about his mother. "Did you know," Ming-wei asked his son, "that your mother was named after the plum blossoms that bloomed the week she was born?" and that there was a grove of plum trees on her father's estate, where she spent hours as a girl? Wei Ming looked puzzled. I knew her name meant beautiful plum blossom, but she never talked much about her childhood. She should have, Ming-wei said. She had a life before she became your mother, before she became my wife. That life mattered. It shaped who she became. He called all three of his children together and gave them Wei-chen's letters to read. They passed them around in silence, their faces reflecting shock and confusion and finally, understanding. His daughter, Mei-hua, cried quietly, holding the jade comb that Ming-wei had given her. Mother loved someone else, she said, wonderingly. And she still loved us. How is that possible? Because love does not divide, Ming-wei said. It multiplies. The heart is larger than we imagine. Your mother's capacity to love General Wei-chen did not diminish her capacity to love me, or to love all of you. We are not competing for pieces of the same small thing. We are all part of the vast thing she built over her lifetime. His youngest son, Ming-jun, frowned. But she married you instead of him. Was she unhappy? Ming-wei thought carefully before answering. I think she was sad at first, but I also think she found happiness in time. Not the happiness she had imagined for herself, but a real happiness nonetheless. Life rarely gives us the story we expect. The question is whether we can find meaning in the story we receive. In the weeks that followed, Ming-wei began to see his marriage with new clarity. He remembered moments of genuine connection, Mei-lin laughing at one of his terrible puns, her hand seeking his during a frightening moment, the way she would defend his decisions to their children even when she privately disagreed. He remembered her sitting beside his sickbed when he had pneumonia, reading to him for hours in her gentle voice. He remembered the pride in her eyes when he succeeded in business ventures, her comfort when he failed. Those moments had been real, 17 years of real moments, adding up to a real life. He took to visiting the garden every morning, sitting beside the pond as the sun rose. He would hold the jade comb and think about Mei-lin, the girl who loved Wei-chen, the woman who married him, the mother who raised their children, the wife who died in his arms. All the same person, all equally real. One morning in late autumn, as the frost touched the chrysanthemums and the pond's surface turned to silver ice, Ming-wei finally understood what Mei-lin had been trying to say with her last breath. He had leaned close, desperate to hear, and she had whispered so faintly, he thought he imagined it. But now, holding the jade comb and remembering everything he had learned, he knew. She had been trying to say thank you. Thank you for 17 years. Thank you for children and a home. Thank you for patience with a heart that carried multiple loves. Thank you for being the story she received, even if he was not the story she had first imagined. Ming-wei wept then, fully and freely, letting the grief finally move through him. He wept for Mei-lin, for Wei-chen, for himself. He wept for the girl in the plum grove and the woman in the garden. He wept for all the complicated, imperfect ways that people love each other and hurt each other and somehow find meaning anyway. When the tears finally stopped, he felt lighter. The anger was gone, replaced by something deeper and truer, gratitude. He had been given 17 years with an extraordinary woman. She had not been perfect, and neither had he, but they had built something worthwhile together. That was enough. That was more than enough. Ming-wei placed the jade comb on the small shrine in the garden, beside the incense burner and the offerings of fruit and wine. It would stay there, he decided. A reminder not of betrayal, but of transformation. The comb had begun as a token of Wei-chen's love. It had become a symbol of Mei-lin's integration of past and present, and now it would be a memorial to the truth that love, in all its forms, matters, that nothing we feel is wasted, that the heart is vast enough to hold everything, if we are brave enough to let it. As the morning sun climbed higher, warming the frost-touched garden, Ming-wei said a prayer for his wife's spirit. He prayed that she was at peace, that she knew he had finally understood. He prayed for Wei-chen, still serving in the northern fortress, still carrying his own private grief. And he prayed for himself, that he would remember Mei-lin not as she had died or as she had been before him, but as she had lived, fully, completely, in all her complicated humanity. The jade comb gleamed on the shrine, catching the light. The lotus carving seemed to dance in the sun's rays. eternal and beautiful. And Ming-wei knew that this was what the dead left behind. Not just objects and memories, but invitations to understand. Invitations to see more clearly, to love more expansively, to forgive more deeply. He accepted the invitation. It was the last gift Mei-lin could give him, and he would not waste it. He would spend the rest of his life honoring what they had built together, cherishing the children they had raised, and remembering that love, in all its messy and imperfect forms, was worth the pain of losing it. The garden bloomed around him, beautiful and fleeting, just like everything else.